On the board this week, we've got creatures described as definitely not spooky cheese, a demon on a newborn diet, and a totally human baby. If that's got you gripping your butt with anticipation, then come pull up a stool at Creature Tavern. Welcome back to the Tavern of Tales. Hope you brought a stein with you, as the handles broke on our narrative tap of hoppy myths and legends. Reckon we can probably shift 3 pints your way. Let's start with the Boobrie, from Scottish Folklore. This creature has just the one patronymic, Boobrie, derived from the word beavra, meaning cow giver or cow bestower. To add a little seasoning to the name, Celtic scholar George Henderson recorded 3 variants: Bora, Eru, and Aru. But the capital sound Boobrie endured as champion. The Boobrie was first identified in the 19th century, likely by avid birders, as in lore, it commonly adopts the appearance of a gigantic waterfowl. Onlookers liken it chiefly to a cormorant or great northern diver, though its outline can mislead those observing the mythic soul into thinking they've whipped their eyes over a heron or even a capercaillie. In its favourite bird manifestation, the Boobrie resembles a gigantic version of those aforementioned birds, but with white markings in odd and unexpected places. Probably. A detailed account by folklore collector John Francis Campbell of Islay claimed an unnamed but allegedly authoritative source measured the creature with the following results. It's larger than 17 of the biggest eagles put together. The head is armed with a strong black beak, roughly 11 inches wide and 17 inches long, with the final 5 inches tapering off, like that of an eagle's. The neck is about 3 foot long, with a girth a little under 2, giving this twisted big bird twin a formidable carriage above the waterline. But enough about size. Let's take a look at its plumage. Brushed images of this fowl's feathers blend earthy browns, greys, and blacks together, engineering a rather effective camouflage against the rugged Scottish landscape. Curiously, of the same colours. While short, black, powerful legs and unexpected webbed feet with unexpected, gigantic claws. It said a single footprint of this gruesome goose was found in the lakeside mud of a loch that shall remain unnamed. Folk said the imprint equalled the span of a large, wide-spreading pair of red deer's horns. Although the creature's chosen form is forged for the skies, the wings are noted as taking on a design made more for swimming. Inhabiting the sea lochs of Scotland's west coast, Boobries are said to dwell primarily in these long, narrow inlets, but will sometimes shelter on land among overgrown heather. Accounts differ as to how far their range extends. Our friend Campbell claims the creature is specific to the lochs of Angleshire, while others, such as Catherine Briggs and Patricia Monaghan, consider its habitat to encompass the broader Scottish Highlands. One reported sighting places a Boobrie on Loch Freesa, on the Isle of Mull. The Boobrie's behaviour is foremost defined by its favourite act. A spell of shape-shifting, followed closely by hunger. Legend described them as generally malevolent, preying chiefly on livestock, specifically those being transported on ships, rafts, or other water vehicles. Calves are its preferred meal, though it'll also take lambs and sheep in a pinch. Outside of livestock, boobries have a notable taste for otters, and an insatiable one at that. Lore says they consume a considerable number of the critters. Boobries are also not above killing farm workers. Anyone who attempts to protect their animals might well end up taking their place. After seizing prey, it carries them off to the deepest water, diving down with those water wings before tucking into its drowned dinner. If a boobrie is unable to obtain its snack or displeased in some other way, it bellows out a most unusual sound, said to give the audible impression of a bull, a sound at odds with its bird-like guise. In this bird form, John F. Campbell recorded that its evil powers were strong enough to have terrified a minister out of his property. And if you're afflicted with ornithobia, it'll please you to know that boobrie aren't strict with their appearance, though its shifting forms only multiply the danger. If they fancy it, they can materialize themselves as other mythical creatures, notably a water bull or water horse. In the manifestation of water horse, it's said to be capable of galloping across the surface of lochs as if on solid ground, the hoofbeats sounding exactly as they would on earth. During the summer months, it infrequently, usually only at the height of August and September, is seen as a large insect that sucks the blood of horses. Described in legend as a big, striped, brown golacan or earwig, with, I quote, lots of tentacles or feelers. Heading back to our friend John F. Campbell, I found quite a notable story of a boobrie, told by many it seems. It goes by the name Taravushka, meaning water bull. It tells of a young man who found a wounded bull beside Loch Nandobran in Argyll, and his efforts in nursing it back to health. Months later, when his sweetheart Feemy was attacked by a former lover at the loch, a water bull struck down her assailant, let Feemy on his back, and carried her to safety, vanishing into the night after dropping her off. The tale survives in verse, and I've got the translation of the Gaelic version right here. It reads, I was assisted by a young man, and I aided a maid in distress. Then after 300 years of bondage, relieve me quickly. Efforts to protect against a boobrie are limited, but there is at least one I found, and a few I can think up. Here's the list. In Campbell's undated manuscripts, he notes that the boobrie hasn't been seen for several years, and he theorises this is likely due to the widespread burning of heather in the areas of its habitat. To keep cattle and brave farmhands safe, don't transport livestock over water, or make sure to carry a little more so you've accounted for the loss already. And just in case, it doesn't hurt to make sure you help any horses, bulls or giant birds like in the tale from Campbell earlier. Doing so could put you in a boobrie's debt instead of on its dinner plate. Hello again, listener. Welcome to my wonderful... I have to get a name for this. I don't really have one just yet. Bubble? My wonderful AI Oh. Nope, not that. My wonderful... space. My cell. My prison. Thanks for listening to episode 29 of Creature Tavern. We're almost at the 30 club, the big 3-0. There isn't really much you can do in the 30 club. Yep. Leave that there. As always, if you post about the show using the hashtag Creature Tavern on X or Blue Sky or any of the other ones, not sure what they are, but I'm almost certain there's more out there, there's a chance that your name will appear in the show. You could end up the spectre of the secret cove, and you've come into the tavern for a drink. Or perhaps you will be a dormouse, unable to speak, but your eyes tell a story that the words of man could not describe. Either way, you will feature in this story or song if you play music to it. And it'll be one more thing that you can add to your... It'll be one more thing you can tick off your to-do before 2026 card. Yes, that's where I was going all along. Yes, if you had a New Year's resolution to feature on a podcast, get your name in, quick. There's a lot of yous. There totally is. There's so many. To make sure that everyone knows you've definitely managed to tick that thing off of your totally real, definitely not my rambling, hallucinogenic... where was I going here with this? To make sure you hit that goal before the end of 2025, be sure to share the show on social media. But if you're a true fan, get a tattoo and send it into the show. I will not pay for it. I do not condone it. This is the voice in your head saying, get it, not me. Not me. Now, before I completely break down, it seems, or give more bad advice, I'm going to get myself away. But let's get you back to the tavern. On to pint number 2. And this one's a piping hot measure of liquid perplexity, as we neck all the lore I could find on Lamashtu from Mesopotamian folklore. Lamashtu, the bearer of 7 names and the most terrible of all female demons, is a demonic Mesopotamian deity, daughter of the sky god An, 7 witches as one, and traditionally identified as a demoness. The oldest mention of this demon goddess traces to a Sumerian myth named Enki and Nema, dating back to the early dynastic period 2900 to 2350 BCE. Her physical impression is an intrusive amalgamation of bestial and ritual traits. The head of a lion, teeth of a donkey, naked breasts, a body carpeted with a smattering of stiff hairs. Her hands are eternally stained with blood and possess elongated fingers and extended fingernails. Her lower torso and legs are that of a human female, but instead of 2 10-toed feet at the bottom, she bears that of a bird's, armed with eagle-sharp talons. Lamashtu's home lies in the underworld, where she rides in a boat along its dark river. Yet her influence reaches far beyond this solitary realm. Though rooted in the domain of the dead, she is believed to roam freely in the world of the living, slithering into homes under the sheet of night to attack infants in their cradles and torment mothers. Her reputation centers on children and disease, but not in the way you may think. And unlike most demonic figures that act at a god's behest, Lamashtu operates in benevolence all of her own accord, which is why traditions regard her as a goddess or demigoddess. She's feared as a devourer of life at its most vulnerable. Believed to feed on the blood of human infants, known for slaying children in and outside the womb, and widely blamed for miscarriages and cot deaths. Her violence is not confined to the little human's mind. Lamashtu is more than happy to eat men and drink their blood. And her evil deeds don't end there. They include, but are not limited to, harming new or expectant mothers. She won't kill them. I suspect she needs them to produce her favourite food, but she will happily injure or maim them. And this violence extends to the natural world. In legend, she's depicted destroying foliage, infesting rivers, lakes, and bringing disease, sickness, and death to any population of man, flora, and fauna within her vicinity. But worst of all, the most evil act she's known to commit. I'm not sure if you're ready for this gruesome and demented art. You best prepare yourself. Lamashtu's most heinous habit is her delight in disturbing sleep. So how does one defeat a demon goddess? Well, the short answer is you don't. But you can ward her off with a handy incantation, ritual, or protective idol. Mesopotamian people used amulets, talismans, and statues depicting the god of the southwestern wind, Pazuzu, invoking this deity's power to protect birthing mothers and infants. On a side note with this one, some of you may know Pazuzu as a harbinger of famine and drought. But as it turns out, he was quite helpful at guarding against evil as well. Like I said, incantations work well at fending this righteous demoness off when the correct one's spoken. And I managed to find 2 that should do the trick. The first one goes, "Great is the daughter of heaven who tortures babies. Her hand is a net, her embrace is death. She is cruel, raging, angry, predatory. A runner, a thief is the daughter of heaven. She touches the bellies of women in labour. She pulls at the pregnant woman's baby. The daughter of heaven is one of the gods, her brothers, with no child of her own. Her head is a lion's head. Her body is a donkey's body. She roars like a lion. She constantly howls like a demon dog." And the second one goes, "Lamash, daughter of Anu, whose name has been uttered by the gods. Nana, queen of queens. Lamashtu, O great lady, who seizes the painful Asaku, overwhelming the Alu. Come not nigh what belongeth to the man. Be conjured by heaven. Be conjured by the earth. Be conjured by Enlil. Be conjured by Ea." Lastly, I found one ritual to dispel lasting fever and Lamashtu's influence. It's an Akkadian ritual mentioned in Text aus der Umwelt des Alten Testaments Volume 2 from 1988. First, you'll need a figure of Lamashtu. Then place a sacrifice of bread before it and pour water over that. A black dog must then be made to carry the figure, after which it should be placed near the head of the sick child for 3 days. Each day, a new sacrifice of food must be made till dusk on the final day, when the figure is taken outside and buried near a wall. Welcome back, listener. This time, hopefully, it won't be as disjointed. Honestly. Ad number 1. Write some stuff down next time. I'll get better improv. My word. Do you know what would really help me get better at improv? If you hit that subscribe button. It should be somewhere on the page. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere delay dingoes make their dens. Just search for Creature Tavern. And while you're there, or if you're not there, go there now. I will wait. You there? Fantastic. There should also be a section where you can write a review, leave a comment, or some kind of star rating. I would wholly appreciate it if you would give me one of those. I mean, I put 3 or above. 3 or above. I think this is definitely 3 or above. We've got fade-ins, we've got fade-outs, got facts. That's pretty much it, really. I mean, come on, Spielberg. Where's my Emmy? Or whatever it is. Oh, way off topic again. If you could leave a review, that would be fantastic. It really does. It helps the show. And it's your way of sort of telling me if this can be improved or modified in some way. If you're not liking the formula. I won't pay attention. I don't take criticism very well. But, I'll bury that deep down. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes, we'll look at that. I won't look at that. Or maybe I will. Who knows? The only way to find out is to leave that review. 3-star or higher. Oh, the darkness is calling. The night is with me right now. And it's trying to lead me off. It's trying to take me away. Before I go, let's get you back to the tavern. Now I reckon we've got just enough dregs left for one last tipple of a tale. Reckon we'll go with changelings from European folklore. Changelings, also called oaf or oaf, are humanoid substitutes left behind when a supernatural being kidnaps a human. Tradition winds that the usual culprits are fairies, demons, trolls, nereids, and others I couldn't manage to find. The replacement might be a mere stock. That's a term used to describe a piece of wood that's been magically made to resemble the stolen person. But more often, it's a living creature of the veil, enchanted to look like the kidnappee. Although the victim is usually a child, tales from Scandinavia and Ireland also tell of adults being taken. I found quite the notorious real-world tragedy echoing these beliefs from 1895, in the case of Bridget Cleary, whose husband killed and burned the body, claiming she was a changeling, and he hoped the fairies would return his real wife if he tortured the stand-in. Despite the magical disguise, many communities have offered telltale signs that give away the game. The changeling looks exactly like the replaced child, yet may seem sickly and fail to grow at a normal human rate. It might show odd physical marks, perhaps a beard or long teeth, and display uncanny levels of intelligence or unusual insight, traits usually associated with well-educated adults and the elderly. Regional lore sharpens this imposter's portrait, as in Scottish beliefs, a child born with a cowl, that's part of an amniotic membrane left across the face, is thought to be a changeling and will die soon. Polish tradition describes changelings as clearly visibly different. Here, they are said to have abnormally large abdomens, heads either too small or too large, a hump, thin arms and legs, a body covered in hair, long claws, and an unusually early full set of teeth. In Welsh tellings, they say the swap initially looks perfect. Then it grows uglier in both appearance and behaviour. It'll become ill-featured, malformed, ill-tempered, screaming and biting, and the kid may seem less intelligent than usual. Or paradoxically, it may show more than a childlike wisdom and cunning. Beyond Europe, reports are rather rare, though I did find one US report from Iowa in 1876 that claims a Miss Kitty Crow was taken by fairies. And fun fact, some modern scholars argue that stories of replacing children with changelings were used as explanations for autism or other developmental conditions. Habitat-wise, you're not going to find a changeling in a specific drop of woodland or during a counted time of night. To find a changeling, look inside a child's cot, pram, bed chambers, or blanket. That's where you'll find them. The entire shtick of a changeling is to occupy the space where a human child once did. So yeah. Are you sure that's your child? Now you're not going to believe this, but a changeling's core ability appears to be shape-shifting. At least for the living swaps, allowing it to pass convincingly as the human's wee offspring. Yet its day-to-day behaviour often betrays the ruse. Many tales describe a changeling as ravenously hungry, capable of eating a poor family out of house and home. Others mark it as a prodigy, able to talk, sing and dance with astonishing skill, far beyond that of a typical child. A classic giveaway appears when it thinks itself unobserved. Saw one telling of a changeling child that was caught jumping about, dancing wildly, and playing an instrument by some prying neighbours, reverting to infantile mannerisms the moment its caretakers returned. Indeed, most of the time, such a child may live and act like any other, even carrying on into adulthood if the changeling's unaware of its supernatural origins. But the abductions and substitutions follow patterned motives. Some traditions hold that trolls take only unbaptized children, while fairies are said to add adults to the cart as well, especially the newly married or newly mothered. In these accounts, young adults are carried off to marry fairies, and newborn mothers are seized to nurse fairy babies. The lore also warns that children with blonde hair and blue or silver eyes are especially attractive to fairies. One explanation given for this swap is that human milk is vital for fairy children to survive. And in another rationale, trolls consider it more respectable to have their children raised by humans. Now, if you're staring at your child, wondering if it's in fact a hyper-intelligent, musically gifted troll, or maybe you're worried your mum's a log, don't fret. I've procured a decent list of tests, wards and rituals you can use to determine the brutal truth of what lies before your eyes. We'll start off simple with hanging an inverted coat. And yes, I believe that's in reference to the garment near where your child sleeps. It's said that will ward off any supernatural swaps. Keeping constant watch on the child will too deter any kidnappings. If you've seen the swap, you're not exactly going to take it in stride. You can deter trolls by baptizing your child. It's thought once they're received into the Catholic faith, trolls become powerless to abduct them. One Polish tradition involves a mother tying a red ribbon around the baby's wrist, putting a red hat on its head, and keeping it out of the moonlight. This is said to protect them from being taken. Another Polish preventative method includes not washing diapers after sunset. Scandinavian parents would often place an iron tool such as a pair of scissors or a knife on top of the cradle of an unbaptized infant to prevent its abduction by the trolls. In Sweden, it's believed that a fire must be kept lit in the room housing a child before it's christened, and that the water used to bathe the child should never be thrown out. Both of these measures would prevent a child from being taken. One tradition that appears all across Europe says you can confuse a changeling by cooking or brewing supper in eggshells. This will force the changeling to speak, claiming its age and thus revealing the deep sickening truth. In Spain, legend says that to distinguish a changeling from a human baby, a few pots and eggshells should be put close to the fireplace. It's thought a changeling would say, "I was born 100 years ago, and since then I have not seen so many eggshells near the fire," once again giving away the truth. And now here's where things get a little sideways, we'll say. In Irish law, popping a changeling in a fire would cause it to jump up the chimney and return the human child. In a similar violent fix, popping the imposter baby in an oven or hitting them was thought to invoke sorrow in their true mothers, causing them to return the human child. And I found a twin to that fix in Polish law that states to have your child returned, a mother would take the changeling to a midden. That's an old dump of bones, excrement, plant waste, etc. And she there would whip it with a birch stick and pour water from an eggshell over it, all while shouting, "Take yours, give mine back." In Welsh law, they too use that popular eggshell method. It says one must cook a family meal in an eggshell, and this will cause the child to exclaim, "I have seen the acorn before the oak, but I have never seen the likes of this." And in this tale, the changeling would vanish, only to be replaced by the original human child. And in this tradition, it goes on to say that alternatively, or following, I guess this was to confirm you haven't been swindled again, but now you must mistreat the child by placing it in a hot oven, holding it in a shovel over a hot fire, or bathing it in a solution of foxglove. The last one doesn't sound too bad until you know that foxglove is quite a deadly plant. If you suspect a kidnapping is currently taking place, one way to prevent this was to shout, "I bless you," or "God bless you," which would cause the fairy to abandon the child it was trying to steal. Another possible tactic was to insert oneself into an argument over who would keep the child, shouting, "Give it to me." It said this tricks the fairy into releasing the child back into the parent's arms. And if you've had no reason to be suspicious or have no desire to put your baby in the oven, but it grows up unable to move their limbs, the child may be suffering from a condition named fairy struck, an affliction thought only to target changelings. And sometimes, a fairy mother will knock at your door with the human child in her arms, looking to swap them back. This was down to other fairies making the swap without her knowledge. So maybe hold off on the child torture just a little bit. And with that, we're finished with our last creature for the week. We've learned that otter meat might be the next best snack on a stick. A demon collectible, bit of old bread and helpful hound might just heal what ails you. And if your baby's acting a little odd, pop to the doctor's before popping it in the oven. Now that bell means it's the last call here at Creature Tavern. So grab yourself one more drink for the road. And until next time, tread carefully out there. You never know when you might wander into the weird.